so shake 'em. I ain't got none.
Welcome back to the Young Turks. This is Anna Kasparian and Richard Escow joining you. We are going to talk about the world's first genderless person.
The first world's official genderless person.
Yes, officially documented, or legally documented. So this person's name is Nori Mae Welby, and I don't know how to. Is it he? You can't say he or she.
Well, that's what we were talking about at the break. Do you refer to the person as it? I mean, that sounds like unkind, to say it.
Yeah, it is not acceptable. I think that's insulting.
But if this person wants to be genderless, then they want to be an it. And I don't mean to be mean here, but aren't they saying they want to be an it?
I guess.
Well, let's go to the story. Let's tell the story.
Let's go to the story. Welby was born as a male 48 years ago and became a woman at the age of 28 after a sex change in Australia. But even though Welby has female genitalia, Welby does not want to be identified as male or female. So officials in Australia altered Welby's birth certificate to specify a neutral gender.
A neutral gender meaning none?
None.
Okay. Interesting.
Right. This is interesting because it does raise a lot of questions.
Like which bathroom?
Right, exactly.
Does the person use?
Especially if you're genderless, then...
Either, neither?
That's why unisex bathrooms make sense. Like, you should always have male, female, and then a unisex bathroom.
Right. Or, yes, because he's kind of unisex.
Right.
Or no sex. But, as medical science advances, people are going to be able to do all sorts of new things. And then all of these questions are going to come up. So he, she, it, what do we call him? Where do they go to the bathroom? How do you address them? It's complicated.
It is complicated.
It might be a new thing. Might be a whole lot of genderless people in 10 years.
And maybe we'll come up with a new term.
Right.
So we'll see what happens. But
like, hey, you. Or that
hey,
person.
You, that person.
Yeah.
But what I like about this is it shows that, at least in Australia, because Australian officials have decided to change the birth certificate, right? They're starting to change their perceptions and their views and their treatment of people who are not male or female, people who want to be genderless or people who don't want to specify their gender. Usually that's unacceptable. So I'm glad that attitudes are changing in this.
Oh, I am too. I think it's very enlightened, especially for Australia, because I've known a lot of Australian guys, and they have not been like your sensitive, new age male types, to say the least.
You don't want to say anything bad about Australia.
Oh, why is that?
Just don't.
I'm not saying anything bad about Australia. I'm just making the observation that the Australian guys I know are kind of not your California new agey. Yeah, if you don't want to have a gender, it's okay with me. That's just not been my experience with the Australian guys I know.
Interesting.
But obviously, Welby is not of that ilk.
Right. And, I just wanted to take the opportunity to say that Australia rocks and it's an awesome country. And
of course it's an awesome country.
No, by the way, the reason why I'm saying that is we did a past story on Australia back in the day, and we got a backlash from Australians, so I'm partially joking around.
I love Australia. Yeah. I think kangaroos are incredible animals.
Right.
Koalas are adorable. What else do I have to say?
It's a beautiful country, beautiful people.
That's what they tell me. I've never been there, but I'd love to go.
All right, let's go to the next story, and it also has to do with perceptions changing. The Higher Education Research Institute at UCLA recently did a study, and the results of the study indicate that freshmen in college are starting to believe that gay marriage is inevitable, that homosexuality is okay, people should not discriminate against homosexuals, and yeah, it's a no-brainer. Gay marriage should be legalized, and it will be in the future.
And you know what I think about that? I think that's awesome.
I think that's awesome, too. I love reading stories about this. I love realizing that our country is progressing.
Right, absolutely.
And, when you look at it now, and when you look at the fact that gay marriage is still illegal in California, it blows your mind, because what century are we living in? We're still at a point where we're denying people their civil rights.
Well, and this idea that somehow if gay people marry, it's a threat to straight marriage.
Exactly.
I mean,
it's all rooted in fear, and fear always comes from ignorance.
Fear and maybe desire.
Yeah.
You know, maybe there are just a lot of, well, we keep seeing these stories about Larry Craig, right? And these other, maybe there are a lot of people out there who are suppressing their natural tendencies, and they figure if it wasn't illegal, they'd give into it.
Right.
But I think it's great. Why shouldn't they marry?
Yeah, why shouldn't they marry? Exactly. And
why should only straight guys have to pay alimony?
That's true.
Think about it.
No, that's true. It's very true. I think that homosexuals should have the same rights as straight people do in the United States, and I think that we're really heading toward that direction. So I'm looking forward to that, and I love the results of the study. Okay, let's go back to a little bit of celebrity news, and it has to do with Jessica Simpson.
Ah, Jessica.
So we talked about how John Mayer had the interview with Playboy magazine, and he described Jessica Simpson as sexual napalm.
Which I've never looked at Jessica Simpson the same way since I heard about that.
That's so funny that you say that, because Jessica Simpson now went on The View and she talks about how men are kind of ogling her differently.
Well, of course. I mean, it's a provocative thing to say.
And it's funny, she says, it's more embarrassing because I'll be walking into a restaurant and I'll notice that more men are looking at me and I feel as though they're undressing me with their eyes.
That's probably true,
yeah.
actually. And, I mean, well, first of all, she's not exactly dressing to not be noticed, like in a picture like that right there. So there's not a complete innocence there. But, look, Mayer was an idiot. And look at that. I mean, for God's sake, it's like she doesn't want men to undress her with her eyes. What is she trying to do there? But
can I just say, look, John Mayer doesn't say the smartest things in interviews. Like, he needs to hold back a little bit and not say things that are going to humiliate the people that he was with, right?
And himself.
And himself,
because
exactly.
he comes across like a complete idiot.
Yeah, and a douchebag. We've talked about it.
And a douchebag, yes, correct. Yeah.
We've talked about it.
And, as my grandparents would say, not a gentleman.
Not a gentleman.
A gentleman does not say such things about a lady.
Yeah, especially about their sexual relationship.
Oh, my God, for God's sake. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I will say this. Jessica Simpson has said several times that she was very upset at the fact that he said that about her. And I could understand what she's saying. Yeah, I could understand what she's saying. You don't want people knowing about your sexual rendezvous with John Mayer or with anyone else for that matter.
Or what you're like in bed. Or, I mean, it's very personal stuff, you know.
It is very personal stuff. With that said, we all know that Jessica Simpson has sex, okay? And
I would assume so,
and being described as sexual napalm is not the worst thing in the world.
No, you could look at it that way. Yes, she probably won't lack for date offer invitations for the rest of her life with a description like that. But John Mayer, I mean,
I know that was super classless. I don't know what was going through his mind. But when she was talking to the ladies of The View, she said that he'll never have this napalm again.
Oh, I'm sure that's true.
You go, girl. Don't give him that napalm.
Oh, no, he ain't getting none of that napalm anymore. I'm sure of that.
JR, what do you think about Jessica Simpson, and what do you think about the fact that she's sexual napalm? Do you think that that is a very offensive thing for John Mayer to say about her?
Well, first I thought he was saying a negative thing about her. I mean, I'm trying to figure it out. Like, as far as sex and she's sexual napalm, like it's bad, you want to get away from it. That's what I thought. I guess people see it differently. I mean, I don't think it would make me look at her hard or when she walks by, I go, oh, yeah, now that I heard that, I look the same way both times.
Which was what exactly?
I would already been looking at her like, damn.
Right.
It would have happened anyway.
I wasn't thinking.
I'm not listening to what John Mayer says, and all of a sudden my mind has changed because that's what that idiot says. No.
Right.
It's fine.
Well, I don't want to get in trouble here, but
no, get in trouble. We like it.
Yeah. But there are women who are really beautiful, but not very exciting, shall we say, in an intimate setting.
Can you elaborate a little bit?
I think you know what I'm driving at. And he has just informed the world that she is the opposite of that. Okay?
Right.
That she's, very exciting in bed, basically. So that's a compelling package when you put it all together. And you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's and I definitely know what you're saying. Now, this is one person who wouldn't really care as Jake. He's said this before. He thinks there's no such thing as a woman being bad in bed or too boring or any of that stuff, which I think is ridiculous.
He thinks there's no such thing as a woman being too boring in bed?
Yeah.
He did say that.
He says a lot, and
He
it doesn't,
said he doesn't need anyone doing the Taiwanese basket trick. What does he call it?
I've never heard of it, but it sounds interesting, actually.
Yeah, that was a discussion we had on the post-game show, which you guys should be members of. But.
Right. No, that's interesting. I didn't realize that he felt that way.
Yeah, he's insane.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
I mean,
of course.
that's what we put out there. He's insane. I mean, you're supposed to just, I don't know. Let's not get into the details.
Right, correct.
Right, but I mean,
right.
It makes sense. I mean, it's more exciting that way, but apparently maybe it will turn some people off. The 0.5% of the population think like Janky does. I don't know.
Well, that's a first for me, actually. I certainly haven't met half the population thinking like that, but all right.
No, the 0.5% of the
Oh,
population.
0.5%. Now I think you're talking. Yeah.
All right, let's go to one final story before we wrap things up today, or for the entertainment hour. We have a story about a man in Tennessee. He's an inmate. His name is Anthony McCoy, and he went into jail with a gold grill, okay? And that basically means gold teeth, and they were cemented onto his normal teeth.
Right.
All right? So think of it as veneers, but they're gold.
Right.
So he goes into jail, or he...
Like caps, kind of.
Caps.
Or something. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So he goes to jail, and he is told by Davidson County Sheriff Lieutenant Tanya Mayhew to take it off. And he says, I can't take it off. It's cemented onto my teeth.
Right.
So she grabs into his mouth, and she yanks it out. She yanks his gold teeth out of his mouth.
That had to hurt.
And caused so much pain that he was in agony for 10 days.
Right.
Everyone ignored him, and they didn't give him any type of medical treatment to numb the pain or help him out. And now he and his attorney have sued. They filed a lawsuit, and he received a settlement for $95,000.
Well, I think that's absolutely right.
I agree.
Constitution prohibits cruel and unusual punishment. They wounded the guy. They left him in pain. They didn't treat him. I don't think it's enough. I think he should have gotten 10 times that amount.
I agree. And first of all, this Sheriff's Lieutenant Tanya Mayhew needs to be fired. You can't do something like that.
Right.
And she obviously broke regulation. She shouldn't be there. That's a violent thing to do.
Right.
So yeah, let's get rid of her. That's totally uncalled for. So yeah, I'm happy that he got the settlement. And there were pictures of his teeth and the way they looked after the gold teeth were pulled out of his mouth. And it just looked like he was in so much pain. It was so bad. So yeah, I'm happy with the settlement too.
And I hope they replace the teeth.
Yeah, I hope they replace the teeth as well. All right, guys, so that does it for the entertainment hour. We're going to come back with political news and talk about healthcare reform, talk about Glenn Beck. We have some really great videos for you guys. So we'll see you back on the Young Turks in a few minutes. Welcome back to the Young Turks. This is Anna Kasparian and Richard Escow with you. Michael Steele just recently went on CNN and he was talking to Rick Sanchez, and he says that he has some issues with the Congressional Budget Office and the figures they recently released when it comes to the health care bill. We have the video. Let's watch it and we'll discuss it.
According to the calculations that we did, and according to the calculations the Democrats are announcing today, it's going to save in the deficit for the United States citizens $1.2 trillion. Do you believe that's not true?
Okay, I got 2 words for you. I have 3 words. Three words.
Go.
That's a lie.
Okay.
It will not.
Well, you're arguing.
It will cost us. It will cost us trillions of dollars.
You're arguing with the CBO. You're arguing with the CBO.
Yeah, you know what? And let me tell you about the CBO.
Go ahead.
Right? Since they've been taken down to the woodshed at the White House last year, you can't believe the numbers. Why does it take them? Look, CBO is only as good as what you put into it, as what you give it. So CBO is only, if you shave off some numbers, if you don't include certain things, if you don't put it the right way, their calculations are not going to reflect the real value or cost of the program.
But is
so
that,
let's be honest about that. So
but
it's only
but
the number is only good is what Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid and the president gives them, and they have given them bad numbers.
Is that fair to criticize the CBO now when during the Bush administration the CBO's numbers were represented and respected almost every time they came out with numbers by both sides? Now all of a sudden the CBO is not to be believed.
But President Bush never called the director of the CBO down to the White House to get the number out of him that he wanted.
So you
President
think
Bush never made the CBO the centerpiece of his legislation in order to get things passed. They put
So
in the real numbers and came up with an honest assessment.
You're saying the President of the United States has corrupted the CBO with a personal phone call or visit? Well,
I'm
come
saying
on
that
now.
I'm just saying that, look, this whole process has not worked on behalf of the American people.
I love Rick Sanchez because he makes a great point.
Oh, he's great.
During the Bush administration, no one questioned the CBO. There were no questions about the facts and figures, right? It was fact. Their figures are correct, and we're not going to question them. We're going to respect them. As he said, by both sides, Republicans and Democrats. And now all of a sudden, you know, under the Obama administration, the Republicans have an issue with the CBO.
You know, he doesn't even accurately describe what the CBO does. He says that Obama and Nancy Pelosi, you know, because we hate Nancy Pelosi, gave them bad numbers, but they don't give the CBO the numbers. They give them the legislation, and the CBO gives them the numbers back. So they don't even understand. He's not even properly representing what it is the CBO does.
Exactly.
The other thing about Michael Steele is he should stop trying to get all street when he talks. Have you noticed that?
We've talked about this on the show several times before. Yes, he's not street.
He's not, and yet he tries to say, you know, he tries to put a little bit of that in,
Yeah.
and he did it here, and it just doesn't work. And I will go back, you know, remember I came on this show a year ago and challenged Michael Steele. Somebody did it the next day. Remember when he was saying he was going to do a rap thing?
Yes.
I will go one-on-one with that man.
And you would
Rap
beat him in
style.
rapping?
Freestyle.
Rapathon.
Freestyle. Just him and me and the beat. And I will rip him up. I will cut him.
Oh my God.
I am ready.
This is a side of Richard Escow that I did not expect.
I am ready to take him on, his flow against mine.
Oh wow. So do you go to rap clubs at night sometimes and do some freestyling?
No, but I don't need to take down Michael Steele.
Well, that's true. I think I would be able to take down Michael Steele with my raps.
I think
and
you
I'm
could.
the least street out of everyone here.
Yes, but I respect your flow.
You respect my flow.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. What's up, JR?
Really?
Do I really respect her flow?
Oh, dun 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 dun. All right. So who's gonna take a shot at this?
You are.
All right, hold on. What's up, Michael Steele? You're not cool. You think you're great, but you're really a fool.
That's not bad.
Oh, okay, I'm the worst. That was the worst flow ever. You go on TV thinking you're a G, but it turns out a new poll says you're a liability. Oh. No, that was pretty good. That was pretty good. I give myself props for that
I
one.
was just going to step in, but all right. We'll save that
Okay.
for another time.
Okay, now let's talk about the liability story because that's an actual poll that was done by the National Journal. And this poll indicates that they surveyed about 104 GOP political operatives, and they found that 71% of them considered Michael Steele to be a liability, while only 20% saw him as an asset, and 9% found him to be neither.
I would say they don't like him very much.
They don't like him very much. I mean, to have your own party consider you a liability, that's pretty embarrassing.
Well, Michael Steele, his job is to raise money for political candidates in the Republican Party. That's his whole job.
Right.
That's what he's supposed to do. But he decided that this was going to be a platform for him to be the shadow president and to challenge the president and challenge the Democratic Party, and he's just not that good at it.
Yeah, he fails almost every single time, and he ends up looking like a fool. And remember, this is the face of the Republican Party.
Absolutely.
And look, I'm not saying the Republican Party is not questionable, but he makes them look even more questionable.
I would say he definitely does.
Yeah.
And I'm ready to take him on.
You're ready to take him on?
I am ready to take him on.
I can't wait to see that.
It will
Richard.
happen. He's afraid. He's afraid of me. He's afraid of me. You know, there's just no doubt about it.
Well, he should be afraid of you because you have actual intellect and actual facts to take him down, whereas he has no facts and no knowledge of what's going on in the political system. But all right, let's go to the next story, and this is something that we talked about a couple days ago. The Parkinson's protester, Bob, the man who was targeted by Tea Partiers at a rally in Ohio, he has actually had an interview with Progress Ohio, and he talks about the situation where the Tea Partiers targeted him and basically degraded him on film. So let's go to, let's see which video it is. Let's go to video number 5, Bob the Parkinson's man, where he talks about the healthcare rally. video number 5.
Parkinson's is like having 7 lions walking around behind you all the time. You're always scared and frightened and shaking, and I've had it for 15 years roughly. And right now I have a hard time talking, and I have a hard time walking. You know, I went over to the rally not expecting to have anything and everything. I figured no one could be safer than me. I was there to kind of testify to my position. People complimented me for being there and said how brave I was. But honestly, I didn't feel brave. I said, so my answer is thank you. It seemed like the right thing to do. I had to tell people that I had been diagnosed with Parkinson's. My whole family cried. My mother couldn't sleep at all that night. Then when I had my surgery years later, we all cried over again, over how much what a miracle it was. And that's, I guess, what we're talking about here. Families that cried together. How many more of them will be crying together in happiness over the successful performance of the surgery for Parkinson's disease, and for so many other things? People will be crying out of happiness or not crying out of sadness. I really hope that they pass this health insurance bill. It's a close one. Every vote counts, or just get out there and everyone take your own action, whatever it is. If you can sit next to people like I did, great. If you can't, do something else. But do something. This is a once-in-a-lifetime thing. I sure hope we get it through. Thank you. Thanks for helping. That's community.
Okay, so for those of you who are listening on the radio and were not able to see some of the information that was given in that video, Bob had Parkinson's disease and he was targeted by the Tea Partiers. He's actually 60 years old and he was first diagnosed with Parkinson's 15 years ago. Now, the one thing about that video where you see the Tea Partiers targeting him, they keep trying to insist that he's looking for a handout, that he's this lazy, unintelligent guy who's just looking for the government to take care of him, right? This man has 2 master's degrees and a PhD from Cornell University. He's an educated man who was diagnosed with Parkinson's, and he had to spend $150,000 on getting a surgery to help him with his Parkinson's disease. Okay, so he also taught at the University of Michigan, and he worked as a nuclear engineer. All right, and this man is looking for a handout.
And this is a guy, by the way, these are people who, among other things, besides being horrible human beings, to attack him personally, they don't understand the basic concept of insurance, which is you pay in when you don't need it, and everybody pays in when they don't need it, and then when somebody really does need it, you've paid for it.
Right.
So this is a guy who basically paid his own way, just as we should all do. And if you can't afford to pay into it, you ought to be able to get some help doing it, because that doesn't only help you, it helps the whole country.
By the way, I want to clarify one thing. He didn't pay the $150,000 out of pocket. He was able to afford it thanks to Medicare.
Right.
Okay, so the reason why he was at the protest or at the rally is because he was doing his part to support healthcare and to support things like Medicare that allowed him to get that surgery.
He was saying that everybody ought to have the opportunity he had, because the tragic fact is that there are people out there who are disabled or crippled or dying or from a variety of diseases who can't get the treatment they need because they can't afford it, which is just a hideous thing.
That is a hideous thing. We have another video of him, and in this particular video, he's talking directly to the Tea Partiers who mocked him. So he has a message for them. It's video number 6.
Like, 2 sentences, is there something like...
I asked them a question. I asked them, like, for example, oh, you have a sign that says this is socialism, right? Well, what is it about it that makes it socialism? What qualifies this as being socialism and that as not being socialism? How do you distinguish the two? And how did you get to that position, if that's how you go about distinguishing them? And I think that's a great fault of our media now. They aren't studying these subjects deeply enough to hear the premises that people are basing their arguments under. So they can just say, socialist, what that means is, I don't like you, or bias means you're not, bias is equal to the difference between where I'm at, which is neutral, and where you're at. So everybody's biased but me. And so I would just ask all kinds of questions until they got sick of me.
I love this guy.
That's how I do it. I wish that the media would do that too.
No, I love this guy. And what's funny about that is they were pointing fingers at him and making him out to be the unintelligent one. And I'm pretty sure that they wouldn't be able to answer some of the questions that he has for them.
Oh, no, Bob the Parkinson's guy is great.
He is great.
He's great, yeah.
And I do see him as an American hero. I see
Sure.
him as someone who's standing up for what he believes in, who's standing up for something that will benefit Americans. And that's the definition of an American hero who is taking advantage of our democratic system.
Absolutely. Good for him.
All right, so we have another healthcare-related story, and it has to do with an 11-year-old. Okay?
All right.
All right, conservative talk show hosts are targeting an 11-year-old by the name of Marcellus Owens. And is this really surprising?
No.
Glenn Beck, Rush Limbaugh, and Michelle Malkin are targeting this 11-year-old because his mother got sick, she lost her job, she lost her health insurance, and she died. And conservative talk show hosts are saying that they are using this 11-year-old boy as a political prop. They're using him as a way to lobby in favor for healthcare reform. And some of the quotes that I have here are amazing because you got to keep in mind this 11-year-old boy is hearing this stuff.
Well, of course.
And he's hearing this stuff about his mother, and he just lost his mother. I mean, how can you be so cruel, right? So let's start with Glenn Beck. He says, now this is unseemly, explosive, an 11-year-old boy being forced to tell his story all over just to benefit the Democratic Party and Barack Obama. Limbaugh, that's actually something that Limbaugh said on March 12th. And he says, and I would say this to Marcellus Owens. Well, your mom would have still died because Obamacare doesn't kick in until 2014.
Look, if you can't pick on an orphan, what's the fun of being a conservative? I mean, the whole point of being a conservative is to pick on orphans and widows and poor people and sick people, isn't it? It used to be a political philosophy, but now it's a way to prey on the weak and the sick.
I just don't know how do you go home at night and look at yourself in the mirror and not feel terrible for the things that you say about innocent people? This 11-year-old boy, first of all, has nothing to do with this debate, okay? And they target him because he's an easy target, because he can't fight back. And this is just what conservatives do, and they feel proud of it. And it's just disgusting. They do it with people like Bob the Parkinson's guy,
right.
and they tote around and they think, you know, we're great people and we're fighting for something great, but they're not. They're just disgusting. I don't know how they do it.
Well, this goes back to our story yesterday about the French torture show. It's mob psychology. It's taking the weak one in the herd and tearing them down. It's just, it's nasty stuff. You know, it's saying to an 11-year-old kid, your mom would have died anyway. Nice.
Very nice. Classy. That's great. Michelle Malkin also said some despicable things. She basically dismissed Owens, and she said that he is one of Obama's youngest lobbyists who has been goaded by left-wing activist grandmother, promoted by Murray, and has become a regular on the pro-Obamacare circuit.
Nice. Well, she's classy, too.
Amazing. So what's interesting is another thing that these conservative talk show hosts are claiming is that this young boy's mother didn't do everything she could to get the proper care that she needed, that there were other ways for her to get proper care, and she basically didn't do it. So it's her fault that she died. First of all, she wasn't eligible for Medicare. So I guess they were trying to say that she could have gotten Medicare, but she wasn't eligible. Also, she's from Washington State, and Washington State has a basic health care plan that has a huge waiting list of 100,000 people. So that was another way that she supposedly could have gotten the proper health care necessary to survive.
And in some states, it's very hard to get on Medicaid, which is supposed to be, there's a thing called a spend down, and there are certain moms in her position who are forced to make the decision, do I lose everything, the home, the car, everything that my child needs to have a life so that I can stay alive, or do I die and leave those things to him? That's the kind of choice that people are given today that I guess is okay with these folks.
Yeah, it's okay for them because they're able to pay for their health insurance. I mean, it's only going to cost you half the price of a Hummer or an SUV.
Right. I'm sure the Fox benefit plan is pretty good.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. All right, why don't we take a break? We're going to come back with some great videos, and we're going to talk about homosexuality in the military and how it has supposedly ruined our ability to fight wars. We'll be back on the Young Turks. Back on the Young Turks, Anna Kasparian and Richard Escow with you. All right, we have a video of a clown. All right, we have retired General John Sheehan, and he's talking about homosexuals in the military. He talks about how gay Dutch soldiers were the reason for this Serbian massacre.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Let's hear him.
So, you know, there's going to be hilarity here. So let's go to the video. It's video number 2.
That led to a force that was ill-equipped to go to war. The case in point that I'm referring to is when the Dutch were required to defend Srebrenica against the Serbs. The battalion was under strength, poorly led, and the Serbs came into town, handcuffed the soldiers to the telephone poles, marched the Muslims off, and executed them. That was the largest massacre in Europe since World War II.
Did the Dutch leaders tell you it was because there were gay soldiers there?
It was a combination.
But did they tell you that? That's my question. They did.
They included that as part of the problem.
That there were gay soldiers among the Dutch.
The combination was the liberalization of the military, a net effect of basically social engineering.
You said that no special accommodation should be made for any member of the military.
Sure.
Are members who are straight, who are heterosexual, allowed in our military to say that they are straight and heterosexual? Are they allowed to say that without being discharged?
Are they allowed to declare the sexuality?
Yeah, are they allowed to say that, hey, I'm straight, I'm heterosexual? Can you say that without being discharged?
There's no prohibition to my knowledge.
Is that special accommodation to them?
I wouldn't consider a special accommodation.
Why would it be a special accommodation into someone who's gay to say, hey, I'm gay? Why do you call that special? You don't call it special for someone who's heterosexual or straight. Why do you believe that's a special accommodation to somebody who is gay?
I think the issue, Senator, that we're talking about really hasn't a lot to do with the individuals. It has to do with the very nature of combat. Combat is not about individuals, it's about units. We're talking about a group of people who declare openly sexual attraction to a particular segment of the population and insist on continuing to live in the intimate proximity with them.
But
that, by law,
you allow that for heterosexuals. You
Yes.
don't have any problem with that.
Don't have a problem with that.
You don't have any problem with men and women serving together even though they say that they're attracted to each other.
That's correct.
That's not a special accommodation.
No.
I love that. And Senator Carl Levin is talking to him there. Levin, sorry, is talking to him there. And I love that because he turns this into a question of equality. And he's basically saying, so you don't believe in equality? I mean, when you really strip it down, that's what he's asking him. And he's like, no, I don't believe in equality.
Well, I mean, point number one, General Sheen is dumb as dirt because it was so obvious what Levin was setting him up for, and he walked right into it over and over and over again. So General Sheen, if you're listening right now, just keep your mouth shut from now on. You're not very good at this public spokesmanship thing, this whole public speech thing, and I wasn't very good there either. Secondly, I just thought I'd do a little Google searching while we were listening to him. Dutch government officials, it says in the paper today, reacted angrily on Friday to claims of a retired U.S. general, et cetera, et cetera. They are saying that he didn't tell the truth, that no one ever told him that. The Dutch Defense Ministry issued a statement calling Sheehan's claims absolute nonsense, quote unquote, adding that gay Dutch soldiers routinely cooperate with the U.S. military in the NATO mission in Afghanistan, et cetera, et cetera. And the head of the military union there said Sheehan's comments were ridiculous and out of the realm of fiction. So if he was sworn in order to give that congressional testimony, might be a good case for perjury there.
Yeah, absolutely. He
and
lied.
You know what happens when you go to prison? Don't make me elaborate on that. But what a bigot.
Yeah, what a bigot. I mean, to say that a massacre happened because the Dutch army allowed homosexuals and it was a liberal army, that's such a terrible thing to say. That's saying homosexuals are weak, they're not able to serve in the army, and we have homosexuals serving in our military right now, and that's degrading them when they're serving our country. And
Absolutely.
That's despicable, that's disgusting, and I'm glad that he's retired. That's all I have to say.
Many of them have won all sorts of medals for bravery in combat and then been forced out when we learn, even without don't ask, don't tell, they don't tell. They weren't asked, like the case of this gay woman, this lesbian woman, where she didn't tell. She wasn't asked, but they found emails, private emails, and drummed her out because of that. It's got to stop.
It's got to stop. It's amazing. And you know, during the Bush administration, whenever anyone said that they were opposed to the war in Iraq, the first thing that they would say is, you're anti-American, you are not supporting our troops, you're not supporting our troops, how can you do that? That's not patriotic. Well, what these Republicans are doing is they're not supporting our troops.
Of course, that's a great point. They're not supporting, I don't know what the figures are, but at least 5% of our troops are not being supported by these people. And we need every soldier we can get right now. Our military is stretched pretty thin. So.
Absolutely. All right. I want to go back to healthcare because Jane Hampshire from Firedog Lake did a great piece on firedoglake.com about the healthcare reform, and she basically laid down a bunch of myths regarding healthcare reform. And what I love about it is she proves that they're myths with real evidence, facts, and figures. So, look, I know you're an expert on healthcare,
right,
okay?
Right.
And the reason why I wanted to bring this up now is because I know you're going to have some great answers to these.
Right.
So I outlined the myths that I found most interesting, and I'm going to read them to you. First off, there's this notion that the bill is going to provide universal health care. We all know that, right? Basically, the total uninsured in 2019 with no bill is 54 million. The total uninsured in 2019 with the Senate bill is 24 million, so 44%. So it is going to insure some people, but it's not going to insure everyone. I
was way ahead of the curve on everybody on this one. Going back a year and a half when John Edwards was pushing one thing, Hillary was pushing another, Obama was pushing another, I said nobody is talking about universal coverage. Hillary kept saying, well, I have universal coverage, Obama doesn't. I said, nobody has universal coverage. I came up with my number of, I thought, how many people would still be uninsured after this was over. And when the CBO did it 9 months later, I was within 1 million of them.
Wow.
So, yeah, she's absolutely right. That's fact.
All right, let's go to the next myth. The bill will make health care affordable for middle-class Americans. She claims that that is not true. The bill will improve a financial hardship on middle-class Americans who will be forced to buy a product that they can't afford to use. And she gives an example. She says a family of 4 making $66,370 will be forced to pay $5,243 per year for insurance.
Absolutely correct. And another one I've been reporting on for a long time, and when all the liberal commentators and bloggers that were pushing this stuff, it's like this individual mandate, there are reasons why, you know, economically it might make sense. I said, the numbers won't work. They'll be too hard on working families making $60,000 or $70,000 or $80,000 a year. I came on this show a long time ago and said that. Absolutely right.
Now, this next myth is something that I found interesting because the CBO said that the health reform will provide health insurance for 32 million people, something like that. Well, Jane Hampshire says that's a myth. This bill will provide health care to 31 million people who are currently uninsured. She says that's a myth. This bill will mandate that millions of people who are currently uninsured must purchase insurance from private companies, or the IRS will collect up to 2% of their annual income in penalties.
Right. This is one that's been frustrating me for a long time. I always got so frustrated when Republicans did this. And honestly, Democrats have been doing it too. When we say it provides coverage to 31 million people, I'll give you a sneak preview. She's pretty much right about all these things, but no, it doesn't. I've meant to, and I just haven't had the time with all the other projects I'm working on, including financial reform, but I've meant to go back and say, of that 31 million, how many will be provided insurance? Because some will. But how many of them will just be required to buy insurance, and break out which number is which? And I haven't had a chance to do that, but that would be interesting. Overall, she's right. It's not 31 million.
She's right. And she literally lays out about, let me tell you,
13 or 14, I think. I read the
18 different myths about this bill. And what I love about it is, even if you haven't read the bill, if you look through all these myths, she gives you facts about what the actual contents of the bill are. So go to firedoglake.com and read it. It's really great. And I have some more news on healthcare reform that I want to get to before we end the show today. Grayson says that he will be pushing the public option on his own terms.
That's Representative Alan Grayson of Florida.
Yes. He says that he proposes to extend Medicare benefits to anyone from birth to age 64 with a simple buy-in. In a recent interview, Grayson was empathetic in how his plan compares to Obama's, as well as the single-payer plan recommended by the group pharmacists for a national health plan.
Why not? I mean, listen, to me, look, I said yesterday, I think we need to pass this bill. Jane disagrees, even though Jane and I see things exactly the same way. But I see no reason why Democrats like Alan Grayson and like Bernie Sanders in the Senate shouldn't start immediately introducing bills. Immediately, once this thing passes to make it better. Public option, roll back those individual mandates, Medicare buy-in, all of the above. I don't see, I am for the principle of transparency. I don't like deals. I want every one of my Democratic senators and congresspeople to stand up and tell me, are they for this or against it?
Right. Look, Alan Grayson's proposal sounds great. And of course, this is something that I would support. But what are the, I mean, it sounds too good to be true. What's the possibility that they're actually going to extend Medicare benefits to anyone from birth to age 64?
Well, you have to pay for them under his plan, but zero, probably. But I want these guys to stand up and tell me why they're not for the things this country needs. I don't want Max Baucus to write a bill and then it have many of its provisions crammed down Congress's throat and nobody ever have to stand up and vote for or against a public option, for or against a Medicare buy-in. That's the way to move things forward in this country, is to press and press and press until finally people start to collapse and give in because they're tired of explaining to their constituents why they didn't do the right thing.
All right. And let's go to Orly Taitz. We talked about her a little bit yesterday, and I really want to get to her story. So she's planning on running for California State Secretary.
Right.
And she is also under a lot of pressure because the California bar is now investigating her. Okay, so she was forced to pay a $20,000 fine in Georgia for making frivolous filings regarding the birther case.
Right.
All right?
Right.
And she has completely ignored that.
Right. She's the crazy neighbor lady who keeps suing you because your hedges are too tall. I mean, that's basic. And she's Lady Gaga's mom.
And
that's
she's Lady Gaga's mom.
But look, so what do we say about Orly Taitz? What do we say about her? I mean, she's crazy and she's running for Secretary of State. What else do we say?
I guess we say nothing. Except she's funny. I think she's hilarious.
She is funny.
And it amazes me that she thinks that she's actually going to win. I mean, she's planning on winning the Republican nomination to run for California State Secretary.
There she is. So I saw her in a video. No, she is, look, she's nuts. She's, again, look, I don't mean to be unkind, but there is something not, she's got a screw loose. You know, even the people who were her allies in the birther movement have distanced themselves from her.
I know.
She's like crazy flying saucer lady.
You know, yesterday I was talking to you about how we had her on the show, and it was the epitome of an interrupt-a-thon, where it was impossible for the host to ask any questions. It was impossible to understand anything she was saying. We have a little example of that. So
yeah, I'd love to hear it.
I want to get to that video. I lost my sheet, so I don't know what number it is, but it's the Orly Taitz video. Video number 4. Let's go to that.
Your listeners need to know the truth. They're sick of the lies coming from the mainstream media. 85% of American citizens are saying Obama was not vetted. He needs to be vetted. He needs to provide original birth certificates. The only one that are on the fringe are Obama's brown shirts in the media that insult people and would not let them speak out the truth.
Obama's brown shirts. You're referring to. You're making a reference, Orly, to Nazi Germany and to a lot of us who lost relatives in the Holocaust.
Exactly.
That is deeply, deeply offensive.
Okay, your behavior is the offenses. You and Tamron Hall are behaving in an offensive manner. You're calling people names and you would not listen. You just called me names. You said this is a crazy movement. The only ones that are crazy that are listening to Obama's lies and would not listen to the word of truth.
All right. So yeah, she's a clown. I
Do
find
we have
it so
any
funny.
video of Lady Gaga? No.
All right.
It's uncanny. To me, it's uncanny.
I gotta stand up for Lady Gaga a little bit.
That's
She's
true.
not that busted. Okay.
I am disrespecting Lady Gaga. I'm sorry about that.
All right, guys, we have to go. Thank you so much for joining us this week. Richard, thank you for coming on the show. It was a pleasure for us. And we will see you guys. Cenk will be back on Monday, so we'll see you guys on Monday.